Alright, today is day 21 of my 30-day vegan challenge, and this video is going to be mostly a life update, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about decision making, the process of making big decisions, and the value of being decisive regardless of if you're really sure of the best move to make. As far as my challenge is concerned, things are still going fairly well. My energy level is pretty good. The only time it gets bad is when I end up in a food crisis or I don't prepare my day well enough, and then I end up finding myself extremely hungry at some point in the day, and then I have all the thoughts of all the food I want to eat that is not vegan and just comes flooding into my consciousness, and I just want to eat meat and I want to eat all these other things. So that still happens to me when I get really hungry. So that's a key point, is to avoid the dangerously hungry moments. That being said, I actually have booked my ticket back to New York. I will be flying back in just a few days. I will be back in the city on the 4th of October. My plan is obviously to finish the 30 days of the challenge. And then my extended plan beyond that is to continue to eat vegan in New York and see how that experience goes for me, see how I feel adjusting doing it on my own. But the goal is going to be to keep exploring that as I continue. So moving into today's topic, I went for a long walk by myself early this morning, and I listened to the School of Greatness podcast. A guy named Lewis Howes, he hosts it. It's a great channel with lots of really good content. Every week he has on a new inspirational person that he interviews. And today I was listening to an interview he had with Jen Bricker, which, if you don't know who she is, she was a woman who was born without legs. Her parents left her in the hospital when she was born. She was then adopted from that point on into the care of a really sweet and loving and encouraging family. She went on to play all kinds of sports and defy all the expectations that were set on her in her early years in high school, and then later becoming an extremely successful aerial acrobat. During this podcast, she was talking about the value of being raised by the family she was raised by and not by her biological parents, who she ended up actually meeting later on in life. One of the craziest parts of her life is that her sister is Dominique Moceanu, who was a gold medal Olympian gymnast in the 1990s. This is her biological sister. Her parents actually had two other daughters that they kept. Jen eventually was reunited with her sisters later in life. So it's actually a very captivating and beautiful story all around. Kind of miraculous. Here's a woman who has had tons of adversity, has faced it, has risen to the challenge at every point in her life, has had lots of support along the way, and has acknowledged that support and has had gratitude for that support. It's just a very inspiring story, and I encourage you to check her out. What she spoke on, though, in the podcast that really stood out was the value of the freedom that she was given as a child, and that her parents never said that she couldn't do anything or couldn't do certain activities that she wanted to do. She found a way to play sports. She found a way to do roller skating on her hands at a young age. And she spoke about how important that part of her development was to make her own decisions, and that the alternative of being indecisive or going forwards or backwards on something, or at the worst case just standing still and staying put when you know you should be doing something but you're afraid to act on it, how crippling that is for a life and how crippling that is for a human. Even though with all of her setbacks, she felt so much confidence gaining as a young person by being allowed to make decisions. And even if those choices don't exactly work out the way you want them to, there's incredible empowerment just in deciding anything and in taking that action and moving forward with it. Either it goes great or it doesn't, but either way it's a win, because you get to look back and learn from what happened. You also get to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I made a choice, I made a decision, and that was on me. And I had the courage to go ahead and do that. And I think that might be one of the most underrated abilities that we have. Very often I think we just feel like life is happening to us and it's just taking us along and pulling us along, when in fact we are the creators and the decision makers. We are the ones that get to form what we want to have. Yes, there are things that are outside of our control, but there's also an incredible amount that we can do on a daily basis to improve our circumstances, to fulfill our dreams, to become who we really want to be. And Jen Bricker is a very, very fine example of that, and I'm really glad I got to hear her today on that podcast. This was a relevant topic for me because I had to make a decision about staying in Florida or going back to New York and keeping my apartment. And after much debate and much back and forth, I have decided to return back to the big city, to keep my apartment, also ultimately to pursue my dreams as an actor. New York is a much better place for me to be than in the middle of Florida. The vegan thing I'm sure will be challenging there, but I'm up for the challenge. I'm up for documenting it. I'm up for keeping you guys around, keeping you in my life. This has been such a blast for me. Even though I wasn't a vegan before coming down here, still actually have explored lots of different cuisines and food that are vegan, and some of my favorite dishes in New York City are vegan dishes, and I look forward to sharing some of those with you when I get back, which I think will be a lot of fun. In closing, exercise your freedom. Exercise your ability to make big decisions. Don't be afraid of them. The more that you make, the more you're going to learn, the more that you're going to grow, and the more confidence you're going to build as a person. So whatever you're thinking about doing, whatever you're feeling on the fence about, be careful in your analysis of it, but don't dwell for too long. Eventually, you got to go one way or the other, sooner or later. Don't shy away from that. Remember that you're in control of your life and you're in control of your future. As always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the button, leave me a comment, let me know what you might be struggling with in terms of decision making right now in your life, or let me know what a big decision you had to make was. Alright y'all, thanks for watching. Fruit Flower Squad, I'm out.